Dear students, in this video we are going to learn a new lesson in biobotany, that is principles of ecology. Ecology term is derived from two Greek words, oikos, which means house or dwelling place, and logos means study. So ecology means study of dwelling place. It was first proposed by Reiter in 1868. According to Reiter, ecology is the study of living organisms, both plants and animals, in their own natural habitats or home. After Ernst Haeckel in 1869 gave his definition for ecology, which was widely accepted, and he stated that ecology is the study of reciprocal relationship between living organism and their environment. Alexander von Humboldt is considered as the father of ecology. Eugene P. Odum is father of modern ecology, and Ramdeo Misra is considered as father of Indian ecology. The basic unit of ecological hierarchy is an individual organism. The hierarchy of ecological system is illustrated like this. So first, ecological hierarchy starts with the interaction of the individual organism with its environment, and after which it is enlarged to the interaction of the population to its environment. Then population join to form the community, communities join to form the ecosystem, and ecosystem forms the landscape, then biome and biosphere. So this is the hierarchy or ecological levels of organization. First one, particular individual organism, interaction of this particular individual organism with the environment, then its population, whole population with the environment, then community interaction with the environment, then it ecosystem, biome and biosphere. Ecology is mainly divided into two branches. They are autocology and synecology. What is this autocology? It is the ecology of an individual species. A particular species of organism interaction with the environment is called autocology. Whereas synecology is the ecology of a population or community with one or more number of species which are included in that particular community. That study is called as community ecology. And this synecology or the community ecology is classified into population ecology, community ecology and ecosystem ecology. Next we have habitat and nick. What is habitat? Habitat is nothing but the specific physical place of an organism. Physical place which is occupied by an organism, or the place in which the organism lives, which is called as habitat. But the environment or the habitat of any community is called as biotope. What is nick? Nick is nothing but the organism's place in the biotic environment, as well as the functional role of this organism in that environment, biotic environment, is called as nick. And this nick term was coined by Roswell Hill Johnson, and this was first used by Grinnell in 1917. So habitat and nick of an organism is considered as the ecotope. So what is biotope? Biotope is environment of any community is called biotope, whereas ecotope is the habitat as well as the nick. That means the living place as well as the functional role of that particular organism in that living place is called as ecotope. Now let us see the differences between the habitat and the nick. An habitat is the specific physical place occupied by an organism, whereas nick is the functional space occupied by an organism in the same ecosystem. And habitat can be shared, may be shared by many organisms. The same habitat may be shared by many organisms, whereas nick cannot be shared. A single nick is occupied only by a single species. Habitat specificity is exhibited by the organism, whereas organism may change their nick with time and season. Now define ecological equivalence. Taxonomically different species, when they occupy similar habitat in different geographical region, it can be in any corner of this biosphere, then it is called as ecological equivalence. Example, The species of grass which are on the western ghats of our India will differ from the grass species of temperate grasslands of steppes in North America. But all of them are ecologically primary producers and they fulfill their role in their respective communities. Next we have ecological factors. Ecological factors includes physical, chemical and biological components. And these components are present surrounding an organism and they affect the life of an organism. All such factors which lie together along with many organisms that coexist in an environment, and they are called as environmental factors or ecological factors. Ecological factors are broadly classified into biotic and abiotic. Biotic meaning living components and abiotic meaning non-living components. And they can also be classified meaningfully into 4 classes. They are climatic factors, edaphic factors, topographic factors and biotic factors. Climatic factor, by the term itself we can understand the climatic condition of a region or ecosystem. Edaphic factors include all the subfactors that are related to soil, like soil aeration, water content, acidity, etc. Topographic features are the surface features of the earth. And biotic factor are the living organism, the living component of an ecosystem included in the biotic factors. First one we shall see about the climatic factors. Climate is one of the important natural factor of any living organism. It is a very important factor that controls the plant life. The climatic factors include light, temperature, water, wind and fire. In that, light is well-known factor which is needed for the basic physiological activities of the plants and animals. In plants, they control the photosynthesis, transpiration, seed germination and flowering, etc. The portion of the light that can be seen by human eye is called as visible light. And the visible part of the light wavelength ranges from 400 nanometer, that is violet color, to 700 nanometer red color, VIBGR we say in short. They are the different colors wavelength of the spectrum. And between the blue color, that is blue 400 to 500 nanometer, to red color 600 to 700 nanometer, the photosynthesis will be higher, will be maximum between these wavelength of the light. And in the green color wavelength, that is 500 to 600 nanometer, the photosynthetic effect will be less. This wavelength is not strongly absorbed by the plants. Light also affects the plant's various physiological activities like photosynthesis, opening and closure of the stomata, movement of the plant parts, tropic nastic movements of the plants, germination of the seeds, flowering, tuber formation, runner formation, as well as the stem and the leaf formation. So everything will be affected by the light. According to the tolerances to the different intensities of the light, the plants are broadly classified into heliophytes and xerophytes. Heliophytes are the plants that are considered as the light-loving plants, and they will grow towards the light source. Example for this is angiosperm. Whereas the xerophytes are shade-loving plants, and they will grow nicely, they will grow well under the shade. Example for this are bryophytes and pteridophytes. The second climatic factor is the temperature. And temperature is one of the important factors that affect most of the metabolic activities of all the organisms. Every physiological process of the organism need optimum temperature, and so there are 3 limits of temperature, that they are minimum temperature in which the physiological activities will be lowest, optimum temperature in which the physiological activities are maximum, and the maximum temperature in which the physiological activities will stop. So minimum temperature, the physiological activities will be at their lowest level. Optimum temperature, the physiological activities will be at their maximum level, and the maximum temperature at which the physiological activities will stop. Based on temperature, Ronke classified the world's vegetation into megatherms, mesotherms, microtherms, and ecistotherms. According to the thermal tolerance, the plant vegetations are classified into eurythermal and the stenothermal. Eurythermal means the organism can tolerate wide range of temperature fluctuation. Example, marine angiosperm like Zostera. Stenothermal organisms will tolerate only small range of temperature variation. Example, mango and palm like terrestrial angiosperm. These mango plants cannot grow in the temperate region countries like Canada and Germany. There are also thermal springs and the deep sea hydrothermal winds. They will gush out hot springs. Here the average temperature exceeds 100 degrees Celsius. In the aquatic habitat, the temperature ranges from the top surface to the bottom. According to these changes, the aquatic habitat is divided into three regions and it is called as thermal stratification. The water body is divided into three regions according to the increase in the depth. And these three levels of thermal stratification are epilimnion, the upper layer of the water body which is warmer water. Secondly, metalimnion, the middle layer. This is in this zone there will be gradual decrease in the temperature. Bottommost layer is called as hypolimnion, where the water will be colder. Temperature based on zonation. There is variation in the latitude and altitude, and this also affects the temperature of a region as well as the vegetation on the earth's surface. What is latitude? Latitudes are the horizontal imaginary lines which run from east to west on the earth's surface, and it ranges from 0 degree at the equator to 90 degree at the poles. Based on this, according to this, the temperature also ranges. The temperature will be maximum at the equatorial region and it decreases towards the polar region. What is altitude? Altitude is the height of the place, height of a location with respect to the sea level, and this is what is called altitude of the place. So based on this, the vegetation also vary on the surface of the earth. Timber line or the tree line, and this is nothing but the imaginary line which are drawn on the mountain or higher areas of land that marks a level above which the trees do not grow. The trees can grow very well from about 3000 meter to 4000 meter from the bottom, and about 4000 meters the growth of the trees or the plants will be decreasing with respect to the increase in the altitude or the height of the place. What are the effects of temperature on the organism? Physiological processes of an organism are influenced by the increase or the decrease in the temperature. The temperature affects the enzymatic action of all the biochemical reactions of plant body. Temperature also influences carbon dioxide and water solubility in the biological system. This temperature increases the respiration and stimulates the growth of the seedling. Low temperature with high humidity can cause spread of diseases in plants. And varying temperature with moisture will determine the distribution of vegetation type, what type of plants can grow according to the temperature prevailing in that area. The next climatic factor is water. Water affects the vital processes of all living organisms, and it covers more than 70% of Earth's surface. The productivity as well as the distribution of the plants depend upon the availability of water, and the quality of water is very important, especially for the aquatic organism. In nature, water is available to the plants in three forms. They are atmospheric moisture, precipitation, that is rain, and soil water. Amount of salt content in the water determines its salinity, and the salinity of the water body ranges from 0.5 percentage to 100 percentage. According to the salt content, the water is classified into inland water or the fresh water, which contains only 0.5 percentage of salt in it, sea water, which contains 0.3 to 35 percentage of salt in it, and hypersaline water, which contains more than 100 percentage of salt in it, which are present in the lagoons. Based on the range of tolerance of salinity, the plants are classified, the organisms are classified into euryhaline and stenohaline. Euryhaline organisms are the organisms which can live in water with wide range of salinity. Example, marine algae and marine angiosperm. Stenohaline are the organisms which can withstand only a small range of salinity. Example, the plants that are living in the estuaries. According to the tolerance of the environmental factors like temperature, salinity, habitat, water, food, and depth of the water, terminology is given for the organisms as stenothermal and eurythermal. Similarly, stenohaline, euryhaline for salinity, stenoceous, urinaceous for habitat selection, stenohydric or euryhydric for amount of water present, stenophagic and euryphagic according to the food availability, stenobathic and eurybathic according to the depth of the water. The terminology is assigned to the organism with their tolerance level to different environmental factors. Next we are going to learn about phytoremediation. What is this phytoremediation? Cadmium is a poisoning substance that is present in soil naturally in some places, and this presence of cadmium will affect the life or the biotic factor of that particular region. Presence of cadmium causes toxicity of the soil. There are some examples of organisms which can tolerate this toxicity, and soya beans and tomato can tolerate the presence of cadmium. They isolate this cadmium from the soil and they will store this in different groups of cells, by which it can prevent this cadmium affecting the other cells of its body, other cells of this soya bean and tomato plant's body. Second example, rice and ecornia. Ecornia is a plant water hyacinth. It is called as water hyacinth, and this can tolerate cadmium by binding this cadmium into their proteins itself. And so these plants can grow in the soil which is having cadmium. The presence of cadmium is considered as the contaminated soil. Since these plants are able to remove the cadmium by fixing in their cells or converting into proteins, they are used to purify or clear or remove the poisonous substance from the soil, and this process is called as phytoremediation. The fourth climatic factor is wind. Moving air is called wind, and this is also a vital ecological factor that affects the presence of living organism in particular ecosystem. Atmospheric air consists of a number of gases, particles, and other constituents. The composition of gas in the atmosphere are: nitrogen is present for 78%, oxygen for 21%, carbon dioxide for 0.03%, argon and other gases are present for 0.93%. This is the composition of atmospheric air. The other components of air are water vapor, gaseous pollutant, dust, smoke particles, microorganism, pollen grains, spores, etc. Anemometer is an instrument which is used to measure the speed of wind. What are the effects of wind? Wind is an important factor for the formation of rain. So rain can be caused only by the wind, and wind causes the wave formation in the lakes, ocean, and this promotes the aeration of water, and that in turn will help the growth of the organism in the water body. Strong wind also causes soil erosion. It will remove or it will translocate, it will displace the topsoil layer from one place to another, by which it reduces the soil fertility. Wind increases the rate of transpiration in plants. It helps in pollination of anemophilous flowers. It also helps the dispersal of fruit, seeds and spores. Strong winds also causes uprooting of big trees like this. This we have experienced at the time of cyclone. Unidirectional winds stimulate the development of flag forms in trees. That is nothing but the tree will get the appearance of a flag that is hoisted in a tall pole like, because of the wind which is always blowing from one direction. Greenhouse effect or the albedo effect. The aerosol on the dust particle which are present. The aerosols and dust particles are nothing but the small solid and liquid particles that are suspended in the atmospheric air. And these aerosols with the small particles will reflect the solar radiation that enter into the atmospheric air, and because of which it increases the global mean temperature, and it is called as albedo effect. The sulfur compounds or the pollutants that are present in the atmospheric air causes acid rain, and this will destroy the ozone layer also. Fire. Fire is an exothermic factor. It is caused due to the chemical process of combustion. It releases high amount of heat and light. It is normally man-made, but sometimes it is developed naturally due to the friction between the trees, tree surfaces. And fire is generally divided into ground fire, surface fire and crown fire. Ground fire, this is flameless and it is subterranean. It is on the surface of the soil. It happens on the surface of the soil. Surface fire consumes all the herbs and shrubs of the forest area. Ground fire, this burns the forest canopy on top. What are the effects of fire? Fire causes death of the plant. It has direct lethal effect on plants. Fire causes burning scars on the body of the organisms, which becomes a suitable place for the entry of the parasitic fungi and insects. Fire brings out alteration of light, rainfall, nutrient cycle, fertility of the soil. It alters the pH, soil flora as well as fauna. Some fungi will grow on the soil of burnt areas, and these fungi are termed as pyrophilous. Example for this is Pyronema confluens. Now the indicators of the fire. A fern called terris and the Pyronema fungus, as we told before, will indicate fire disturbed areas. So the places in which we find this terris and Pyronema fungus, we can understand that it is a burnt up or the fire disturbed area. What is called fire break? It is a gap which is made between the vegetation that act as a barrier to stop or slow down the progress of fire. So naturally it happens by the presence of a river, lake or canyon. Canyon is nothing but pallatak, a steep down area which comes immediately after the forest area. So these regions, the river, lake or canyon, which are found between the vegetation, may act as a natural fire break. What is rhytidome? Rhytidome is the outer bark of the trees. The rhytidome is the structural defense of the plant against this fire. The outer bark of the tree will extend up to the last formed periderm is called rhytidome. So this outer part of the trunk of the tree, which is composed of multiple layer of suberized periderm, cortical cell and phloem tissue, protect the stem against the fire, water loss, invasion of insects, and also prevents from the infection of microorganism. The second ecological factor is the edaphic factors. Edaphic factor is soil. Soil is an abiotic factor. The study of soil is called as pedology. Soil is the weathered superficial layer of the earth in which plants can grow. It is the top layer of the earth in which plant can grow. It is a complex composite mass that consists of the soil constituents, soil water, soil air and soil organisms, etc. How is soil formed? Soil is formed by weathering process. Soil originates from the rocks and it is developed gradually by the weathering of the rocks. This weathering depends upon the ecological as well as climatic conditions. What is biological weathering? Biological weathering takes place by the organisms like bacteria, fungi, lichens and plants. These organisms help to break down the rocks through the production of their acids and certain chemical substances in which they are lying. Formation of the soil is called as pedogenesis. And soil can be divided into two types, namely residual soil and transported soil. Residual soil is formed by the weathering of the rocks and pedogenesis, whereas transported soil is moved from the different areas to the current location by various agencies like wind, water, etc. The important adaptive factors of the soil that affect vegetation are soil moisture, soil water, soil reaction, soil nutrients, soil temperature, soil atmosphere and soil organism. Plants absorb the moisture directly from the air and from the rainwater. Soil water is very important ecological factor because it affects the distribution of the plants. Rain is the main source of water. Capillary water, which lies between the soil particles, is the water available to the plants. Soil reaction. Soil may be acidic, alkaline or neutral. The pH of the soil determines the availability of the soil nutrients. The best pH range for the cultivation of the crop is 5.5 to 6.8. Presence of the soil nutrients, minerals and organic nutrients determines the soil fertility as well as productivity of it. The soil nutrients must be available in the form of ions so that the roots can absorb them easily. Soil temperature. Soil temperature also plays a very important role in determining the geographical distribution of the plants because low temperature reduces the absorption of solute by the roots. Soil atmosphere. The spaces which is left between the soil particles are called as pore spaces, and this space contain oxygen and carbon dioxide, which plays an important role in the physiological activities of the plants. Soil organisms like bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoan, nematodes, insects and earthworm plays a very important role in determining the fertility of the soil. What is soil profile? Soil is stratified into different horizons at different depth, and these horizons differ in their physical, chemical and biological properties, and these horizons are placed one above the other at different levels and they are superimposed. This succession of superimposed horizon is called a soil profile. The topmost horizon is called O horizon, which is the surface litter. It consists of humus and partially decomposed organic matter. Next to it is the topsoil or A horizon. A horizon consists of humus, living creatures, inorganic minerals. Next to it is the E horizon. E horizon consists of material which move about downward, and it is a zone of leaching or elevated horizon. Next to E horizon is the subsoil. Subsoil consists of iron, aluminium, humic compounds are accumulated and clay that are leached down from A and E horizon. C horizon is called parental material, and this consists of the weathered parent material, partial breakdown of inorganic minerals, etc. And R is the last horizon. R horizon is called as bedrock. Different types of soil based on the relative proportion of the soil particles are clayey soil, silt soil, loamy soil and sandy soil. Their size is given in this table. Sandy soil consists of 85% of the sand and 15% of clay, and it is otherwise called light soil. Silt soil consists of 90% of silt, more of silt and 10% of sand. Clayey soil consists of 50% of clay and 50% of silt. Their particles will be tinier and they are adhering close to each other, and so the air space will be very less in the clayey soil. The next soil is the best suited for vegetation or cultivation, that is called loamy soil. Here it contains 70% of sand and 30% of clay or silt or both, and it is otherwise called as garden soil. Loamy soil is the ideal soil for cultivation and it ensures good retention of water. The porosity of the soil also provides adequate aeration and allows penetration of the roots. Based on the water retention, aeration and mineral contents, the distribution of vegetation is divided into halophytes. So halophytes are the plants that live in the saline water, psammophytes, the plants that live in the sandy soil, lithophytes, plants that live on the rocky surface, chasmophytes, plants live on the rocky crevices, the gaps breaking crevices of the rocks in which the plants grow are called plasmophytes. Cryptophytes, plants living below the soil surface are called cryptophytes. Cryophytes, plants that live on the surface of the ice is called cryophytes. These are the cryophytes. Oxalophytes, the plants that live in the acidic soil. Calciphytes, plants that live in calcium rich alkaline soil. The term that is given for the total soil water content is holat. Water available to the plant is called chrysad. Water not available to the plant is called echad. Next we have the topographic factors. The surface feature of the earth is called topography. Topography influences the climate of an area, and it is also determined by the interaction of the solar radiation, temperature, humidity, rainfall, latitude and altitude. Topographic factors affect the vegetation through climatic variation in small areas, which is called as microclimate, and it also changes the soil profile. The topographic factors include the latitude, altitude, direction of the mountains, steepness of the mountains, etc. Latitudes. Latitudes are the imaginary lines on the Earth's surface, and they represent the distance from the equator, that is the midline which is drawn on the globe or the biosphere. Temperature values are maximum at the equator and it decreases gradually when we go towards the pole. What is this altitude? Altitude is the level, height of the land area above the sea level, that forms the altitude. When we go towards the higher altitudes, the velocity of the wind remains higher. The temperature and air pressure will decrease while the humidity and the intensity of the light will increase. Because of these factors, the vegetation at different altitudes also varies and they show distinct zonation. And these are the distinct zonation. The vegetation at the base of the mountain is called as, at the foot of the mountain is called as tropical rainforest, above which we have the grassland or desert, which lies between the altitude of 1800 feet to 4000 feet. Deciduous forest from 3000 feet to 6500 feet. After which we will have the coniferous forest, that is from 7500 feet to 12,000 feet, above which we have the tundra and the snow region. Similarly, the latitudinal zonation of vegetation also vary from the equator to the polar region, as tropical rainforest, grassland or desert, deciduous forest, coniferous forest, tree line or tundra forest, and ice and snow in the polar region. Direction of the mountain. The north and the south faces of the mountain also possess different types of flora and fauna, because the two faces of the mountain or the hill receive different amount of solar radiation, wind action and rain. Of the two faces, the windward region possesses good vegetation due to a heavy rainfall, whereas the leeward region, which is the other side of the mountain, this region possesses poor vegetation because of rain shadow region. There is no rainfall here. It is a rain deficient region. Similarly, the soil in the aquatic bodies of the pond also, the center and the edge will possess different types of living organism, different flora and fauna. Because of the depth of the water due to the soil slope and different wave action, they possess different species of organism. The steepness of the mountains also affect the flora and fauna. When the mountain is steep, there will be quick loss of water, and this quick loss of water result in the erosion of the topsoil that causes poor vegetation. On the other hand, in the plains and the valleys, they are rich in vegetation because of the slow drain of the surface water as well as better retention of the water in the soil. What is ecotone? Ecotone is the transition zone between two ecosystems. It is the border that lies between two ecosystems like forest and grassland. Edge effect. The species that are found in these ecotone regions are well adapted to both the environment of the ecosystem, and so they are well adapted to these ecosystems. This is called as edge effect. Example, owl that lives in the ecotone area that lies between the forest and the grassland is well adapted to both the environment of the ecosystems.